What's going on, Imperials? It's Emperor Cubone here. When going back to replay older Pokemon games, it can be fun to shake things up, which can be accomplished in a number of ways, whether that be the standard Nuzlocke, or simply not evolving your Pokemon, one of my favorites, or sometimes a mono-typed team. It can be a fun challenge to try out a single-typed team and try to adapt to the challenges that they may not be best suited for, but trudging through nonetheless. However, not every type is all that suited to use in every region, so it might be fun to use them in one game, but a chore to try them in another. So let's look at all of the Pokemon types and see which games might be the best for you to use nothing but that one single type. And I figured, as with all the starters, we would begin with Grass. Now, the thing about Grass is that it does have a lot of weaknesses, so it'll be key to utilize dual typings to help counter those threats, but there's more to it than that, because to have an effective monotype team, you also have to factor in when you can catch the Pokemon. Just because a region has a lot of Grass types doesn't mean that there will be enough early on to make it through to actually capture the useful ones. So I'm doing something that I don't usually do and actually considering all available Pokemon in the region, not just the new ones. And also the makeup of the region needs to be accounted for as well, because sometimes a type will be outclassed by the arrangement of the gyms or the evil teams to make things much harder than they would be fun, which is exactly why Johto is right out for Grass. Not only are the first two gyms completely hostile to Grass types, not to mention the 4th and 6th ones being rough, but the early Team Rocket enemies use tons of poison types, so you'll regularly get walled. Now, technically you can find Execute as early as Route 29 outside of Newbark, but it requires Headbutt trees, which you can't even use until Ilex Forest. So really the first Grass Pokemon that you can find is Bellsprout just before Violet City, which won't help you in the gym at all, and then Hoppip right after, who will likewise flounder with Bugsy. So you're going to struggle even if you do pick Chikorita. This leafy dinosaur is historically ill-suited to take on its home region. And forget about trying for a Bellossom. So I think it's safe to say that you should not try a mono grass run in Gold and Silver. Similarly, Sinnoh is not a great option. I do love Turtwig for sure, and it's nice that you can pick up a Badoo almost immediately, but then the only other option are Honey Trees, which are a criminally slow and tedious process of obtaining Pokemon, like Cherubi or getting a Burmy, which can eventually evolve into a Grass type, but there's no guarantee that you'll get either of those Grass types anyway. There is the possibility for Rotom Mow after Platinum version, I guess, but after that the next best thing is Carnivine, which is all the way in the Great March. And then Snover is locked away up in the north. People always disparage Sinnoh for the lack of fire types, but apparently Grass isn't doing much better, because it'll take many hours to get a team anything beyond just Torterra and Roserade. But hey, if you want to try and take on the whole region with just those two Pokemon, I won't stop you. Likewise, I don't think Kanto would go over very well either. I mean, Bulbasaur is famously the easy mode choice, but that's with other Pokemon to fill out your team. Otherwise, your best bet is to pick up Bellsprout or Oddish as early as Route 1 in the Let's Go games, but above Cerulean in other games. And you do get a Paris in Mount Moon, but if your Parasect goes down, all of your half-poison types are really gonna struggle against Sabrina. And it's not like a Tangela is going to help out all that much against Koga's poison either. You could lean on Execute, but the Safari Zone is a little too late to make a difference, so Kanto may not be that fun if you're an up-and-coming Aroma Lady or Gardener. And even though Unova has more available overall, you can't catch a single thing until Pinwheel Forest, leaving just your Snivy for the first two gyms. And even with 3 more possibilities, the Bug and Electric gyms will be a problem. Sure, Ferroseed is a huge help, but it can only do so much against the Flying and Ice-type gyms. Maybe Amoonguss and Sawsbuck can do some work as well, but it just seems too difficult to get the ball rolling here. And honestly, I think it's even worse for Black and White 2, only getting Sewaddle and Sunkern before the 3rd gym, with your best hope of beating Elessa being Maractus. So you can give it a try if you want, but I certainly wouldn't want to beat my head against the wall without the ability to trade over new Pokemon. Now, we're about to get into the plausible territory, but I have to put Kalos on the borderline, since the initial setup is so unfavorable. I do love Chespin, but when that's your only option besides a Pansage and a Burmy, who couldn't even evolve into a Grass type yet anyway, it's going to be tricky to get past the Bug type gym. Chespin's rollout is your best hope here, but if you can manage to get over that hurdle, the game becomes much easier, catching a Badoo on Route 4, and getting a free Bulbasaur in Lumio City, also getting a Skiddo, an Oddish, and possibly a Ferroseed before the second gym makes Grant easy work. However, the Team Flare Grunts are also going to use a lot of poison types. Also throw in the last two gyms being super effective against most of your strongest team members, even if there are some late game ghosts that can help you out, and Kalos is starting to look strong in the middle, but leads you to struggle on either end of the bell curve. So then, what could be better than that? Well, I think Alola could be a little easier, if slightly less fun. I say less fun just because after picking Rowlet, Melee Island only offers you Petilil or Cottonee, who is more useful now that it's a fairy type, but those version exclusives would have to hold down your team until Route 5 over on Akala, where you can pick up Fomantis and maybe Bounsweet, who will be able to help you in the water trial, but I don't know how ready you'll be to take on Kiawe. I suppose there is the island scan feature if you want to wait for a certain day of the week to unlock more team members, or catching an Eevee for a Leafeon is always an option, I suppose, but you best hope that the pair of mushrooms in the lush jungle can help you last until you get a Phantump at the tail end of the island. However, after that, there are literally no new grass types on Ula Ula, except for a post-game Tapu Bulu, I suppose, and after that you can get an Executor on their island, or a Delmise in the nearby harbor, and that's about it. I mean, other than an Ultra Kartana in the post-game as well. So there are some decent options here, but they're so stretched out that it might be hard for you to last in between picking up team members. Now honestly, when I first thought of this concept, Hoenn was the first thing that came to mind. However, it might not be as easy as I expected. Trico is a great starter, for sure, there's no question, and you can immediately catch Seedot or Lotad, and also grab a Shroomish well before the first gym. That setup will easily be able to get you through Brawley down in Dewford, and then you can pick up an Oddish before Mauville, and a Roselia right next to it. But then things get tricky with Flannery, because Ludicolo is a version exclusive, and we can't yet get the root fossil, so it may be nigh impossible without that water typing in the Ruby versions. But if you can power through, then Cradily should be able to help out a ton in the Fortree gym, and Tropius and Cacturne will be nice powerhouses to steamroll you through the endgame challengers, even Champion Wallace and Emerald. So Hoenn is a definite maybe. I would say that it's better off than Hisui even. As cool as the new regional Decidueye may be, you don't actually run into another grass type until you're 2/3 of the way done with the first map, and even then it's only the overly aggressive Paris. Although I guess you can find an Alpha Parasect there if you want to go with that. Believe me, I wish it were better because I wanted to use a Hisui and Voltorb as soon as possible. But when they lock it away at the tippy top of the 4th map, I don't think grass can be considered the greatest here. So obviously, if you thought the sheer volume of Pokemon might tip the scales in favor of the newer games, well, it might a little bit, but clearly it's no guarantee. That being said, I do think Paldea narrowly edges out Hoenn. Obviously, after picking Sprigatito, you can roam around quite a bit and capture several varieties of grass types. However, not all of them are super useful with the added normal or ground types, and even Hoppip doesn't actually learn a single flying move before you have to face off the bug or grass gyms. They will put in work against the Titan Cloth, but the other Orthworm and Bombardier are gonna be rough. Not to mention the fire and poison type Team Star bases. Sure, in theory, you could just run straight to where you have an advantage, but the set level caps are not going to agree with you on that. When fully evolved, Meowscarada will be able to carry a lot. However, when the final gym is ice and the final Team Star base is fighting, your grass and dark ace probably isn't going to be too vital. But a nice grass and fire combo is a good consolation prize, I suppose. There are some upsides here, and I'm not saying that Paldea is totally wrong for grass, but if I may, I feel there is one more region that would likely take the cake, with a grass monotype run performing best in Galar. Grookey is an excellent starter for sure, and despite staying pure grass all the way, it is relatively strong and bulky for a plant. And it can learn a downpour of coverage moves hitting other types at least neutrally. And it's not like you're gonna face any trouble before you reach Route 2, where you can once again find a Seedot or Lotad, and then immediately find yourself in the wild area. Now, this may count as cheating to some, but the wild area does open up a great number of opportunities that were never achievable in past games, allowing you access to Bounsweet, Oddish, Cottonee, Badoo, Maractus, and even Snover if the weather is right. Not to mention Applin, who may not have a great range of attack, but its dragon typing will be crucial for facing down Kabu. Also, you can snag a Gossifleur, Cherubi, Ferroseed, and Pumpkaboo all before the first gym, with the latter two easily helping you stand up to Milo, and then Nessa is no problem at all. And the beauty of this is that before you even face a disadvantage, you can already go over to the Isle of Armor to collect even more grass Pokémon. With this side area, we open up the doors to Amoonguss, Tangrowth, Lurantis, Exeggutor, and of course by completing tasks at the dojo, you can choose to get a Bulbasaur. So a second starter early on can easily tip the balance in your favor, not to mention the dojo allows you to Gigantamax several of the grass types, and that extra power can effortlessly get you past the Stow-on-Side gyms, and the possible Poison and Steel dual types easily lets you glide through Opal's challenge as well. Galar also gets the bonus of Team Yell using mostly dark types, letting the grass hit neutrally against all of your foes. And then with Raihan basically being a ground-type trainer instead of dragon, you're gonna be just fine. Also, Sword and Shield are notorious for being fairly easy, so if you can scrape together a decent mix of strong and defensive grass Pokémon, you should be able to overpower even resisted targets like Chairman Rose. Not to mention the dual typings that you can cultivate, and all of the coverage moves as well. So this, combined with the Isle of Armor effectively doubling your options early on, after the wild area had already spoiled us before the first gym, and I'm confident in saying that Galar would be pretty great to try out a monotype grass run, at the very least providing plenty of alternate team members waiting in the wings to back you up. Again, if you wanted to try out Hoenn or Paldea instead, I wouldn't really blame you, but especially for grass, you might just want to dip your toe in so that you're not overwhelmed and go with Sword and Shield instead. But I doubt the other starter types will have a similar answer, let alone all of the rest, so we'll see about the other types later on. Which game would you try for a monotype grass run? Would you pick it just so you could use your favorites? Let me know down in the comments. Also be sure to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe so that you too can become an Imperial today. And until next time, stay grounded.